Hello Year 7 and welcome to Developing Games in Scratch Lesson 2. So hopefully you finished video 1 and you were able to complete the 10-minute challenge where you had to find the different features in Scratch, find sounds, create a new object and make that object move. Now we're going to move on to actually developing our own Pacman game. So in this video we are going to complete 3 parts of the game. Part 1, develop a background. Part 2, designing Pacman. And 3, open, close, mouth. So what you'll want to make sure you've got ready is Scratch. And we're going to start with a brand new Scratch screen. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is draw our Pacman. So what you want to look for is Sprite here. Click on Sprite. And then you're going to go to costumes. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is delete the second costume because we don't need 2 cats, but we are going to use the first one. Then you're going to delete, and we're going to draw our own Pacman. So you're going to go onto the left hand side and use the circle object. Now it's important to remember with these tutorials, they're only here or there really to show you where the different features are and how to code. The design element is completely up to you. So we are going to create our Pacman. So we're going to draw a circle. I'm going to make mine quite traditional, so I'm going to make him yellow. Make him nice. We'll use that yellow there. Okay. Then I'm going to draw my Pacman there. Okay, now that looks like a pretty good size. We can always go back and change that later. And then I'm going to give him some eyes. So my eyes are going to be, we'll give him some purple eyes. And if you want to be really fancy, you can go and put a tiny dot in there as well. But remember, you can change the size. So that will be too big, so I'll make that 3. And then what's really important is that you put an orange dot. Now it doesn't have to be orange, but I'm going to urge you just to use orange so that you don't get too confused later down the line. So we're going to just put a small orange dot in front of Pacman. Okay, so I'm just going to use the paintbrush tool, change the color, so make it a little bit brighter so we've got a larger range. Then I'm going to select a nice orange. Okay, so I'm just going to put a dot there. We'll make it a little bit larger, so make it maybe 5 might be best. Okay, so this is Pacman with his mouth closed, and then we're going to call it close up here. So we're going to say close or closed. Probably makes more sense. Okay, next, what we now need to do is duplicate this costume because we're going to have one costume with a closed mouth and another costume with an open mouth, and we're going to create the illusion that his mouth is opening and closing by just changing the costumes very quickly. So here you right click, duplicate. Okay, now this is very simple. Now on the second costume it says close to, but it's not going to be close to, is it? It's going to be open. All you need to do now is use the rubber tool, and you're just going to take a portion of his face off. But I think 40 is a little bit big, so I'm going to make mine 25, which is, yeah, that's a big mouthful. Good. Okay, so that's there. So we've got a closed and we've got open. And even if we just flick to and from these two, it does look like his mouth is opening and closing. Okay, so we're going to leave that. You're going to go to Sprite 1 and then write Pacman. And we're going to go to Code. And we're going to leave that for now. So we're not actually going to code it yet. So you should have a Pacman object here. You can drag him around, move him, but he won't actually respond to any user commands yet. Now what we need to do is we need to change the background so that it looks like a maze. So you click on stage here, backdrops. Now again, this is completely up to you. You can design whatever maze you would like. You do want to make it as complicated as possible without it being impossible, if that makes sense. So your character should be able to navigate through the maze without getting stuck or without the walls being too small for him to pass. Now, just so that I can see the whole background, I'm just going to zoom out, and this white section here is the backdrop. So anything outside this white section you won't actually see here. So you want to make sure you draw your maze in this section here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put a border, and my border is going to be, I'll make my border black, I think. If you're really confident with this, feel free to just skip this part of the video, but I will go through it slowly for everybody else, just so that they're confident. Make it a little bit, okay, we'll make the outline maybe a 1. Okay, the fill is actually going to be no fill actually, but this will be the outline. So you can draw it here, and then, okay, let's try that one more time. So let's make it a little bit thicker, and try and draw it again. Okay, that's a little bit better, isn't it? Okay, now if you want to adjust your sizings, you should be able to just select the object you're trying to change, and then if I press 10, enter, it's made it a little bit thicker. Okay, now what we need to do, you can keep the white background if you want. That is a little bit boring, so I'm going to change my background. So you're going to use the bucket tool here. Then you can choose whichever background you want. Remember, you want a background where you'll easily be able to see the Pacman object as he's moving around. So I'm going to choose a nice light blue. I think we'll go with a nice light blue here. Okay, and you can press there, and then you can see it's created the background for us. I may actually have to go and change that dot to make it a little bit larger, but we'll be able to test that later. So now all you need to do is draw your maze. So you're going to get your line tool. Now, a nice tip for you, if you like to draw straight lines, hold down shift, and then the line will be completely straight. Now this is me just creating a very, very quick maze. You're going to take a little bit longer with this step to make sure your maze is how you'd like it, and you're going to make your maze much better than mine, because mine doesn't look very good, does it? It's very there's no kind of symmetry, it's very random, there's no pathways. So do take your time to make your maze as you'd like it, essentially. Okay, so I would recommend pausing the video now and see if you can create a maze that looks like mine but 10 times better. Okay, perfect. So you've got your maze, and what you can do now, you can have a look to see if Pacman fits through the walls you've designed. And as you press on Pacman, it changes, so you can have a look at the design. So if you want to, you can also make him a little bit smaller as well. Oops daisies, did not mean to do that. Okay, so now let's get coding. All right, so we've spent a lot of time developing our Pacman, drawing the background. Let's start to develop some code. So we're going to go back here. We've done developing background. We've designed Pacman. Now let's code the opening and closing of Pacman's mouth. Now I've put here iteration. Now iteration is a very common term in programming, and it's when we make an instruction repeat. So instead of asking the computer to do something once and then repeating that line of code 20, 30, 50, 100 times, you put the instruction inside a loop, and then it will continue to execute that instruction as many times as you want. And that's exactly what we're going to do for the opening and closing of Pacman's mouth. So go back to Scratch, and then you go to Code on the left hand side. So which code or scripts do we need first? Now the first thing you always need is event. When the green flag is clicked, you're going to go to events, below events, and go to control, and then forever. So anything that we put inside this forever loop is going to repeat forever. So whilst the game is running, it will execute these instructions. So then we're going to go to looks, and then we're going to go to next costume. So if I just run it now, let's see what happens. Okay, now that's very quick. Almost too quick. I'm not sure if Pacman is able to eat that quickly. What could we put underneath the next costume script to slow it down? What could we tell Scratch to do? I'm going to give you a few moments, pause the video, and I want you to see if you can find the right script that will slow down this instruction. Alright, so you've hopefully paused it and figured it out. If not, please pay attention. So, you go back to control, and then you'll see that there's a wait 1 second in here. So you can drag that and put it just underneath the next costume. So automatically, you can see it's slowed down, hasn't it? Now what you can also do, if you think 1 second is too slow, how could we make it a little bit faster? What value could we put inside the wait something seconds script to slow this down? What could we put inside here? What could we change that? What's less than 1 but also bigger than 0? See if you can test that out and have a go. Now, once you've finished and you were able to figure it out, a nice number is of course something like 0.5. You are going to go to File, Save to your computer, wait for it to load, and you're going to give it a sensible name. Okay, so you're going to give it a sensible name and press Save. In the next video, what we are going to do is we're going to see if we can make Pacman move, because currently he's stationary, isn't he? He's not actually moving anywhere. He's just staying in the same position, opening and closing his mouth. So what we're going to try to do is make Pacman navigate through the maze whilst he is moving. Which scripts might we need to use to do that?